Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be finishing these guys. Finishing our 2026/2025 Express coaches. The back coupling fell off on this one, so I have to glue it back on, but yeah. So like, the only magnetic engine I have right here is Take Along Arthur, but you can do that. You can uncouple this car, and if the back coupling was still there, you could couple this up to here, but I gotta glue it back on. But you can use a Trackmaster push-along engine, and for the second one, do this. Yeah, so that's basically where we left off. What I'm going to do now is, I just got back from Hobby Lobby, and I got a giant bit of wood, like that big, for $1.79. Right there, $1.79. This is balsa wood, by the way. So yeah, what I'm going to do is, so the coaches have this weird shape. The coaches have this weird curved shape. I'll put it on screen, but it's basically like what Rebecca's body does here, with how it like slopes up and then curves down. Basically this shape, but upside down. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the ends for each one. So that's 2 ends, 4 ends, 6 ends. We're going to make 6 ends for these coaches. We're going to measure the width and then cut a little piece slightly wider. So lined this up with this, and you can see it's basically the right size. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let me check the height of the engine. So that's Gordon, that's Rebecca. Rebecca's slightly shorter than Gordon. Here's Arthur. Arthur's also slightly shorter than Gordon. Oliver's okay, so I know the Express coaches are relatively big in the TV show, which is why I'm trying to measure it. So I'm going to make the coaches around the same height as Gordon's cab, because as you know, I'm using Bandai Tech's Gordon and Henry and James for these big engines, since Henry and James and Edwards 2026 proportions are pretty good, but Gordon's aren't, and I want the engines to look consistent. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do is cut this to be the same height as his cab. So you can see this matches up with that part of the foot plate. I'm going to cut this to be the same height as his cab, just a block. So yeah. Alright, so here's one of the ends. It's the same width, and it's around the height of Gordon's cab. If I can grab Gordon. See, it's around the height. So now all we're going to do is we're going to curve the roof. And if it's looking a little too short right now, you got to remember that we're going to add the cab roof. Not the cab roof, the coach roof. Okay, here's what it looks like. And now we're just going to trim it and then add those little weird the curves on the bottom that go inward. So now we can see to the front, the coach is a decent shape, I mean. So yeah. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this onto another piece of wood, and we're going to do this for however many coaches we're doing. So we're going to need one of these for each side. So one here, and then we're going to need that set for each coach. So I'm going to cut out 5 more of these. I'm going to need 6 of these. So alright, so as you can see here, I cut out all 6 of these. And I'd like to say, be careful if you use balsa wood, because unlike cardboard, which will just bend, unlike cardboard or plastic, which will bend if you won't bend it, balsa wood snaps. So yeah, be careful with that when you're cutting them. Anyway, now what we're going to do, we're going to measure the length from end to end, and we're going to cut out another piece of balsa wood. Alright, actually, thought of an easier way to do this. So you see this? I made sure to do it so that the lines were going horizontally, so that way, you know, you can bend it a bit. I'm not going to bend it all the way because, once again, it will snap, but basically what we're going to do, we're going to take an end, apply glue right here, and then bend it to match the curve. Now, I'm using super glue, but I do not recommend using super glue because it will seep through the wood, and if you touch that part, you will get glue on your hand. Balsa wood glue is basically just Elmer's glue, Elmer's liquid glue, so I don't like using that. And hot glue just gets really messy with all those strings, and it's really hard to sand down. So this is my personal preferred use of glue. It's just Dollar Tree super glue, but yeah, be smarter, be more patient than me, so yeah. Alright, so now this is what the body should look like. You might need to do some trimming to get it to the right length, but there we are. And yes, I can see it's ever so slightly hanging off the edge. I don't really care. That's not nearly enough for me to care. Coach looks like. Nice. And yes, I know this slightly slopes down. I'm gonna fix that, but yeah. So now all we're going to do, we're basically just going to repeat that process with the roof. Take a bit of balsa wood and then just make it to where the lines are specifically horizontal, and then curve it around the top. So yeah. And this is how the finished coaches look. Now once again, I know they're pretty short, but this was so, you know, if I wanted to, I could have a 2019 engine like Rebecca pull them. Like, of course, one of the ones with the Trackmaster couplings. Of course, you wouldn't work with the magnet car, but she'd look, you know, still look pretty good with it, aside from the height difference. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna use all these things to make the other coaches, and I'll be back. So yeah. Also, one more thing. Yeah, you can see the wood actually snapped while I was carving it for the roof. So be careful when doing that, because it literally happened to me. So yeah. I was able to salvage it though, and I'll hopefully be able to fill and sand that. Anyway, yeah, back to the other coaches. Alright, so here are all three of the coaches. Now, as you can tell, there were quite a few cracks. So this roof is probably the worst. You can see there's a whole gap because of the crack. I'm going to try to fix that. As you can see, it can be fixed. So I'm going to try to fix that before I fill it in. The same happened with this coach. It's not nearly as bad on either side, but you can also see that it cracked vertically, so I had to add some more wood on the inside for support. And you already saw the first coach, so yeah. And I know they're pretty short. That's once again so it could be compatible with as many merch lines as possible without looking weird. So that way, if I ever change my mind on the metal collection, I can just move to take along, or you know, if I wanted to go back to the 80th style of coupling, I could just use my 80th customs. So yeah, that's it. You can, at this point, you just add whatever details you want and then repaint them. So all right, so here are the finished express coaches, of course being pulled by Gordon. Alright, so I ended up not gluing any extra details on because I ran out of glue. You know, it's not like it would take that much effort to add them. Most of the details are on the sides and on the roof, so I just gotta add them and then paint them black again. But the paints I used are... Okay. The paints I used are Apple Barrel Gloss Black, Apple Barrel Gloss White. I did a thinner coat of Gloss White, so some of the wood would be showing through and it would be a bit more of a cream color, but Apple Barrel does also have a vintage white color that's closer to the coach color. And Crafter's Collection Hunter Green. So yeah, these are the 3 colors I used, and yeah. Also, I did not do the different sides. I know the coaches have different sides, but different amounts of windows on each side and different sized windows. I did not feel like doing all that, so I just chose the most simplistic side and painted it onto all these. And I know, you know, the paint isn't the straightest, but that's once again because I painted them by hand, so yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, it's like the show.